It
Lane
does.
Kiffin is talking about how he doesn't want to go to the SEC championship game. And the question I ask is, how do you disagree with Lane Kiffin on this?
I don't know. I guess I would say, it's changed. The conference championship, could have a big impact both ways for people. So I've talked to other coaches, so I'll just kind of give you the feeling from some other coaches that, they don't want to be in it. And, the risk to get a bye, the reward to get a bye versus the risk to get knocked out completely, that's a really big risk.
How do you argue that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that you can argue it. I think the discussion comes in. What's really hard about this is, and this is why we need a Super League, honestly. But what's really hard about this is that the SEC strength of schedule and the difficulty that they go through in the season is so much more than what a team like Oregon faces. And the problem comes in is that, like, for me, I look at Oregon and I say, hey, right now with the football they're playing, I do think they can compete with the SEC teams. I don't think that I'm not saying they'd go undefeated in the SEC or any of that nonsense. I just think the schedule is too difficult. But I do think they'd be right in the same position as like a Texas or Georgia or Bama, where you're 1 or 2 losses and every single week you're playing for your season because you damn well know if you're a 3-loss team, you're done, your season's over, and we got to start again next year. And that's the hard part.
And just looking at this schedule, I think it's one of those things where you cannot continue to believe that you're going to succeed if you're going to the conference championship game.
I also think too, with the conference championship game point and this whole scheduling thing that we're comparing and contrasting, think about the wear and tear on your roster too. And this is the other part about like the Super League and like how we go about kind of defining a national champion in college football. Like Oregon's wear and tear through that schedule is far less than what an SEC team is going to see. Now, on the flip side of that coin, obviously, we of course have to point out that the SEC teams are getting all the best talent in the country, and they're like 3-4 deep at every position. So it all kind of balances itself out. So I guess my point here, and not to get too lost in the minutia, but like my point is just that if you look at a team in the top 10, and whether it's the college football playoff rankings, the AP, you should be able to say, okay, hey, I can look at Oregon and I can say, yeah, soft-ass schedule. You beat the at home. The didn't play great. Okay, yeah. Even with all that being said, I still think that in a neutral site game, they would probably beat most opponents because they're tougher. Dan Lanning has his team playing a certain way, but we need to see that play out in the college football playoff.
And that's why I say if it's Ohio State and Oregon in a Big Ten championship game, that's a different game in Indianapolis.
Right.
And yeah. I look at any of these top teams in the SEC, and I think Texas is probably, looking at the schedules in the SEC, Texas has probably had the easiest road. Right? Colorado State, as I mentioned, going through their schedule a minute ago. I think that when you look at their SEC schedule, even them having one of the more friendlier schedules in the SEC, I think you have 5 outs on that schedule.
Well, and it's part of why I think that performance by Georgia against Texas was just so. I mean, hell, I'd even say
it was dominant.
It was outlandish.
It was
how
dominant.
Good they were. Like and you look at it and you say, okay, well, do people remember that? Because I remember it. I remember watching that game saying, "Holy cow!" Like
Georgia's defense is bad.
Like, hey, it's Kirby versus Sark in preparation, and who's going to win that battle during the week? And Kirby clearly won it. And so you sit here and you listen to Lane talk about, hey, well, I talked to other coaches in our conference, and the risk reward quotient of going to the SEC championship game just isn't there for most coaches. We would rather just get into the college football playoff with an at-large bid, because then we don't have to worry about bye weeks and all this additional stress and like how we're going to go about that. We can just stay right in the flow. Like it makes sense. So that's why I say, like, for all the people doubting the Super League concept and basically just streamlining this whole process, you're crazy if you think that's not going to happen, because once we get to the NFL model where we can say, okay, cool, we don't have to judge your schedule. right? We're all playing. Everybody's playing everybody. We're all playing the same teams, and we're just going to get an NFL model where we can say, "Yep, Texas is going to play Notre Dame," or you're going to play him. Like it's just all laid out on the field, bro.
If you're Kalen DeBoer, do you want to go to the SEC championship game? Because if Bama wins out, they're probably top 8, top 6, right? Because the likely scenario is that if Alabama wins out and Missouri wins one of its final 2 games and they're favored this weekend, Alabama goes to the SEC championship game.
Right.
Now, depending on who they face, my biggest question is, do you really want to run into somebody like a Texas, who has the next highest chance of winning the SEC at 38%? Do you want to? Who are you putting Georgia, Bama, and Texas in? If Alabama and Texas go to the SEC championship game and Alabama loses that game, does Alabama get in?
At that point, they're 3.
Yeah. So
No,
you're wondering,
you're
do they
in.
get it? So does Alabama really want to go to the SEC championship game? Because if they don't go, I think they're almost certainly
But on
in.
the flip side, and this is what Lane's talking about. On the flip side of, hey, you're going to go to the SEC championship game and run into Texas. What happens if you lose? Well, your season's over. But isn't that what they've been facing for a month now? Isn't that what? And this is my point to guys like Lane who talk about not wanting to go to the SEC championship game, or other coaches. Is that not the job? Is the job not to week in and week out prepare your football team to play in the biggest games? Is that not why you went to ESPN and why you wanted to be in the SEC? And I understand there's risks there, but the worst thing that happens is you don't go to the college football playoff, and everyone's talking about how Kalen DeBoer in his first year went to the SEC championship game and they played their ass off. And, it's not like this is what my point to SEC coaches is. The world's not ending. If you go to the SEC championship game, you grind it out and you lose one. It is what it is, bro. Like you play in the SEC, it's going to happen. You're not doing what LSU is doing this year.
Who's the best team in the SEC then?
I mean, I think you have to lean towards Georgia. I think if Georgia,
the way they're playing now,
Georgia versus anybody, you're probably leaning Georgia.
I mean, if that Ole Miss game is in better conditions, but it wasn't, and they lost.
And it wasn't like Ole Miss put on some offensive clinic. They won that game defensively.
No, it was the field conditions were awful, and Carson Beck's a mid-ass quarterback.
Yeah.
I think Alabama's the best team in the SEC, and I think it's because of Carson Beck. Georgia's the best team in the Big Ten. You put Georgia in the Big Ten, they win the Big Ten.
Yeah.
You put Georgia in the ACC, they would dominate. That league's the very fact that SMU is competing to be the best team in the ACC tells you the struggle that league is.
It's embarrassing, dude. Like
Georgia wins the ACC, Georgia wins the Big Ten, and I think Georgia wins the Big 12.
Yeah.
I think that's the problem for every other conference in the country. Is that I think the second and third best teams, Texas, look at how the interesting part about Texas is Texas was not elite for how many years? Sark shows up, they recruit, they develop talent, he builds a staff that's elite. And their last year in the Big 12, they were unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
And now they're competing for an SEC championship.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're the best team in the Big 12. They're the best team in the ACC. I don't know. Is Texas defensively up front able to compete with the best offensive lines in the Big 10? That would be my question.
Even if they weren't, though, the linebacking in the secondary is elite. So
I think they would be very close to the best team in the Big 10.
I mean, I would love an Oregon-Texas game just because Dylan Gabriel his deep ball is just so on point that it stretches the secondary.
I would love to see Oregon's offense against Texas's secondary.
Yeah,
that
would be the kind of game where you're like, okay, cool. Like if we could get, if we could see an Oregon-Texas matchup, that would be phenomenal. That would be great. But again, this is my point. It goes back to the Greg Sankey, podcast bite that we always play where he's like, hey, it's not our job to come back to earth. And I agree with that sentiment. The SEC is so far and away better than the other 3 conferences. And I include the Big Ten in that. I think the SEC is head and shoulders better than the other 3 that I don't even have to worry about. Like, For Oregon, you damn well better go undefeated.
You better.
You better. Like, if you're a one-loss team in the Big Ten, you've got nothing on an SEC team. You have to be undefeated.
And I look at the middle of the SEC, Ole Miss, South Carolina, Texas A&M, because I don't think Texas A&M's elite by any stretch of the imagination. If you look at the teams that are in the middle, is Ole Miss elite? I think they're not elite, but they're really good.
They're the best team not in the top cut.
Ole Miss would be undefeated in the Big 12.
Agreed. Yep.
Ole Miss, I think, could be undefeated in the ACC.
Yep.
Because I think Ole Miss is significantly better than Miami, who I think is the best team in the ACC. And you just can't have Cam Ward play the kind of football he's played lately with the turnovers and the bad throws.
Yeah, I mean, think about what Ole Miss has done. You look at their schedule. They've shown you they can put up 50 points. The only difference is Jackson Dart's not turning the football over constantly the way Cam is.
Yeah. Yeah. And Missouri, if candies and nuts, they have so many injuries. LSU probably wins the Big 12 in the ACC.
Think about what we're talking about with LSU this year in the SEC, just to bring this home. LSU's not good this year. And we're still talking about the SEC having potentially 4 teams at least, if not 5, in the playoff. And so my point is, in a year, think about the SEC when you've got LSU, Texas, Ole Miss, Bama, and Georgia.
Yeah.
Look at that. Like, the Big Ten has nothing on that. Like, you're not, like, sorry, Michigan fan, you're not doing anything with that. Like, it's just not happening, dude.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I think yeah. Anyway, less of us, more of you. Let's see. Calford gives 10 Monty memberships. Calford, appreciate you. Always good to see you, my friend. Can we talk about, like, you guys? I don't know why it continues to happen, but you guys continue to get the whole emoji thing. Knock yourself out, dude. I'm just telling you, stop DMing me asking me to take you out of YouTube jail. I'm not doing it. If you guys want to fuck around with, like, the comment section and get banned, excuse my French, that's up to you, man. You put all emojis in your comment section, you're going to around and find out. You're going to get filtered. And please don't DM me and ask me to take you out of YouTube jail, because I'm not doing it. I am not doing it. And yesterday, and I'm not going to call people out, but you guys getting pushed out of the comment section like, hey, can you put me back? No, man, I'm not. And I guess I understand it's cool and fun, but I'm not putting you back in.
I mean, I know this is rocket science. You guys could just put a normal comment in the comment section.
And then when you use emojis, don't say that it's my fault. Because it's not. DK, a member for 5 months. DK. I think this level of parity in college football makes this season one of the best we've had. There's a lot of teams that could win the title. I think parity is a very interesting word.
I will agree that the
interesting word.
The outlook of how many teams could win the national championship is very good right now. Really good.
I think parity is. This has been a tough year for a lot of teams. I mean, a very tough year. Stupid. Good morning, stupid. Michigan NOA time's up on Monday. What does that mean? I don't know what
does that mean?
I don't know what NOA means.
Notice of allegations. I guess
that could be. That very well could be the Chad Carter. So I'm a little tired about hearing about the SEC, but it's real nice not to be hearing about anything related to conference realignment. What a great season this has been so far. Well,
what choice do we have, man?
For Ohio State, I think it's been a great season. That loss to Oregon's probably going to haunt you. But I think it'll be very interesting to see. Very interesting to see. Does Ohio State beat Indiana?
The fact that we have to ask that question.
I think they do. I think Ohio State is significantly better than Indiana, especially at the shoe. I think Will Howard is playing. There's obviously the Ohio State contingent has been pushing him for Heisman. He's not a Heisman Trophy contender. But boy, howdy, has Will Howard played some good football.
The thing that concerns me about the Indiana matchup is the physicality of Indiana. They know they're an underdog. They know they have no business winning this game. And because of that, they're just going to be looking to to basically punch you in the face and say, hey, we're Indiana. We're more physical than you. We're going to turn you over. And if they can score on those turnovers, then we'll probably have a game. But again, this brings us right back to what we said 5 minutes ago. I don't have to wonder if Texas or Georgia or Bama would beat Indiana. Those teams would throttle Indiana. I have no doubt. No doubt even at all. I don't trust Ryan Day, and I don't trust that Ohio State is going to ball out. It's at the shoe. They should win the game, but how do you win the game? What kind of game do we play? Is it dominant? Can you drop 40 on Indiana's defense? Probably not.
I think you can.
Well, we'll see.
I think people get all caught up in they're really physical. What's Ohio State?
Not physical sometimes. They weren't physical against Oregon.
Their line play is physical. They're big dudes. When their offensive line is healthy and figured out, and now it clearly has been better the last 3 weeks. Ohio State, their linebackers, it's not like their linebackers are like, hey, can you fall down so I don't have to hit you? I don't feel like Ohio State's got some bros. And I understand. I'm a little worn out, and I'm not even an Ohio State fan again. But I'm a little worn out hearing about how physical Indiana is going to be with Ohio State. Well, what is Ohio State going to be? Is Ohio State just going to lay down?
No, but I think that there's doubts about Ohio State, man. Ohio State hasn't done enough to be like, yeah, without a doubt, they're going to beat Indiana. That's the problem.
I think that you have some of the best wide receivers in the country. I think I look at statistically speaking, you probably have the second best quarterback in the league in Will Howard. And if we look at offensive numbers, I mean, Ohio State is very similar to Indiana in passing statistics, right? So I just go and I look at who's played who and what have those matchups look like. And if I look at Indiana's schedule, Florida International, Western Illinois, UCLA, Charlotte, Maryland, Northwestern, Nebraska, Washington, Michigan State, and Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
They have not been tested this year. And you want to talk about outs. Where's Penn State on Indiana's schedule? Where's Oregon on Indiana's schedule? Where is Iowa on Indiana's schedule? Because those are the top 5 teams beyond Indiana. Indiana has played nobody. Oh, but they're physical, Monty. Okay. It's cool that you're physical against a Nebraska team that's waning, that is playing really bad football right now, inexplicably. They've gotten worse as the season's gone on. It's cool that you're physical against Washington at your place. It's cool that you're physical against a really bad 2-5 Michigan State team. It's cool that you're physical against a pretty average Michigan team. Where's the quality win on their schedule? Look, and I respect Kurt Cignetti. I know he's got like a 72-year contract extension he just signed. I get it.
He's win. Google me.
He's the best coach anybody's ever heard of. If you win at the shoe this weekend, all the flowers for you, dude. Like, I'm here to coronate you. I am here to bootlick, whatever you need me to do.
You're a homer is the first part.
This is going to be the best team that you've played in. It ain't close. And you want to go to the college football playoff. If Indiana loses to Ohio State, they should be out of the playoff scenarios because they haven't earned it. Oh, but Monty, they're 10-0. Your mom would be 10-0 with that schedule. Frankly, if again, play the game. If they're in the Big Ten, they're 10-0. Okay, against that schedule in the Big Ten, find me BYU would be 10-0 with that same schedule. Confidently, I can say that. I think Colorado would be 10-0 against that schedule. Oh, but Monty, they're physical. Okay, great. FIU, I mean, wow, directional Illinois. Did you guys see how physical Indiana was against directional Illinois? Holy cow. My God.
You better hope that Ohio State wins by 30.
I don't care. I don't have a dog in the fight. So if Indiana beats Ohio State, I'm happy to say, hey, Indiana beat Ohio State at the shoe. Nothing else to talk about here, friends. I'm happy to say it. The chances of Indiana going to Columbus and winning that game are slim and none.
See, I just disagree. I think that Ryan Day is not to be trusted. I think that Ohio State, and it comes down to how they're preparing. I would assume Ryan Day is not allowing them to take this lightly, obviously. But it's just it comes down to I don't trust Ryan Day and I don't trust Ohio State to win the games they should win. And Ohio State repeatedly makes games nervous. They keep the game too close. They don't in the big games. They're not making the plays to put teams away. It's the Oregon game. Had multiple opportunities to pull ahead in that game. Had multiple opportunities to go out and get a job done, and you didn't do it. And everyone wants to focus on Will Howard running down the field to end that game. And I want to focus on the fact that you were unable to get Jeremiah Smith open. I want to focus on the fact that Judkins was a ghost in that game. That you played terrible football in that game. So I understand that was earlier in the season. You're a different team now. Okay, cool. But I'm not trusting Ryan Day to go out and get a W over a team that has played nobody. I think that Indiana knows what people are saying. They're well aware. Hey, you haven't played anybody. You don't deserve to be in the college football playoff. Like they're here for that. They understand that. So if you're Indiana and you're an underdog going to the shoe, you've got nothing to lose because you shouldn't have been here anyway. So you're going to go out and you're going to play fast, free football, and you're just going to do what you do and see if it's good enough. But on the other side, and this is my question for Ryan Day and this team, there's pressure on Ohio State to win this game. There's pressure on Ohio State to not only win the game, but to win it comfortably and control the game and to show that you're better quality. And that's where I agree that Ohio State should win this game, but I'm not convinced that they're going to win this game by, 20 points. I feel like this is less than 10 points of a win for Ohio State.
So do you feel like Ohio State's not tested, not proven?
I feel like Ohio State, they've played Oregon. They've played good competition, but I don't feel like they've done enough.
They went to Oregon and they should have won that game. They went to Penn State and they did win that game. Convincingly. And the point on Judkins is they've gotten better at running the ball. Chip Kelly's play calling has gotten more balanced. And I don't know. I just think I'm not ready to. Everybody loves to crown a champion. Everybody loves to crown a champion in October.
All I'm saying is I don't trust Ryan Day. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying Indiana's better than Ohio State. I'm not even saying I expect them to win the game. What I am saying, though, is I'm worried. I am concerned. I am not confident that Ohio State will beat this team convincingly. We'll beat them to a point where people are like, yeah, you know what, Indiana, 10-0 was cool and everything, but you didn't play anybody. And now that you're playing Ohio State, we see what it is. I'm not convinced that'll be the storyline.
We'll see. We'll see. I mean, it all bears out, right?
What is the line on the game right now?
671 in favor of Indiana.
Are they
Indiana's
by like a
7,000 point favorite.
Yeah, where are we at on this game right now?
Ohio State's favored by 11.5.
What do you think of that?
I think that's too low.
Okay.
I think that's too low.
All right.
And it's dropped. Excuse me. It's down a point. It was 12.5. I think they should be 13.5, which is 2 touchdowns essentially.
Yeah.
Because,
we'll see. I hope they beat the hell out of Indiana. I hope we can put Indiana to bed. But
the problem that I have is if you look at the statistics in the Big Ten, Indiana has not been tested. They have not played anybody.
Mm-hmm.
And their numbers are not as good as Ohio State. Like you look at with Judkins being injured this year. I think didn't he have like a broken arm or something? I can't remember. Do you understand that when you look at their rushing numbers, Ohio State is tied for 3rd in the league in rushing at 1,838 yards, 22 touchdowns. Indiana on exponentially more attempts, 379 attempts, 1,700 yards, 32 touchdowns rushing against nobody.
Yep.
Not against the beef up front at Penn State where they ran the ball to win the game. Not against Oregon. Not against, the numbers, you look at total defense. Look at the total defense off opponents' points per game. Indiana, 13 and 14 points a game, Monty. That's all they're giving up against two. And I would remind you, Ohio State is giving up 10 points a game, and look who they've played. I love that we all want Cinderella's slippers. I get it. I understand. You want to put the slipper on Kurt Cignetti's foot, and again, he's got a 58-year contract, and
right.
Again, I'll just go back to the fact your mom and her sewing circle are beating directional Illinois.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to be a red ass about it. I'm happy for Indiana fans.
I don't think that you're being a red ass about this at all. I don't think that your stance, I don't think it's outlandish in any way, shape, or form. But I know for a fact you and I agree that Ryan Day is not to be trusted. I know we agree on that because we've talked about it. So, you're favored by 11.5 points we just saw. Okay. For college football's sake and the Big Ten's sake, Ohio State needs to go out and win this game by 3 possessions. Go out, beat the hell out of them in the first half, make it a joke in the second half. If you do that, then
they can't do that. Indiana's really physical up front, man. Look at how physical Indiana.
You're really lucky you're on vacation next week.
The Hoosiers, bitch. I'll live stream. Follow me on Twitter. I don't give a rat's ass. I'll live stream after the game on Saturday. I don't care. Oh, I won't. I'll be seeing Gladiator without you.
Yeah.
I'll live stream after the game. I don't care, man. I don't care.
Listen.
If Indiana wins that game, you will not have to work hard to find me giving them credit. If you go to Columbus and you win against this Ohio State team, you have accomplished something.
If they beat Ohio State, what do they move up to? 3rd in the country? 2nd in the country?
Sure. I mean, make them number 1. They'd be the best team anybody's ever seen anywhere, ever. If they lose, I don't want to hear another word about it.
Yeah, they better be out of the top 25, Marty.
I am so sick and tired of hearing about, oh, man, Indiana, goddamn. Isaiah Thomas and Steve Alford played basketball. Jeremiah Champion back in the membership. Thank you. Calford gifts 10 more Monty Show member. Oh, hey. Before I get back to the comment section and everybody probably ripping me on Indiana, let's
what that's like these days?
Let's go ahead and just, speaking of flowers, what did I tell you, hyenas, yesterday? I told you I was good looking, right? Every day on this show. In all seriousness, finally, Chaboy is back in Prize Picks. Finally. After John Collins essentially the other night, why would I ever bet on John Collins and the Jazz? I don't know. But why would I bet on Joe Mixon and the Texans? Because they were playing the Cowboys.
Yeah.
Joe Mixon last night was half a touchdown. Joe Mixon last night on a demon was 1.5 touchdowns.
A demon.
So I took Joe Mixon on 1.5 touchdowns. My God, Paul Skeens' girlfriend. Is that Libby? Dunn? Hey, baby. Joe Mixon had 3 touchdowns last night.
Why win? Google me.
CJ Stroud, 254 yards and a half. Last night, he had 257.
Google me. And
then, because, of course, when you look up and down the boards and you say, hey, Marty, how did Soul Train Devin Booker do last night? And you're like, well, of course, Devin Booker came through. And you want to know how close I was to losing last night? 3 for 3. Devin Booker had 3.5, more or less, 3-pointers. I was like, I better just take him on points, rebounds, and assists. right? Where he was 23 and a half. 17 points. 2 rebounds.
Oh.
And 5 dimes for 24. Woo! Let's go. Why, are you ever question my greatness? That's right. 42.50 into the kitty. Thanks to Joe Mixon, the great. No, I'm not even going to say it. Tonight, I think the absolute gimme in the NBA is LeBron James against the Spurs. 43.5 points, rebounds, and assists.
I'm sorry, who?
Labrum James,
La Flag Bearer.
La Flag Bearer. Bronny's daddy.
La Dad.
La sperm donor. La Cap is 43.5 points, rebounds, and assists. Don't say I didn't warn you. You got to take that. Yeah. I know it's Victor Wembanyama. Victor's the way.
Man, Victor, Rookie of the Year, MVP, Sophomore of the Year. You know.
Victor's the way.
Big Daddy Magic is sending me videos in the dark. We should start playing these on the show,
dude.
I love my guy, Big Daddy Magic. But again,
Big Daddy Magic sending me videos in the dark. Hello.
That's him talking to me about
Hello.
The beloved MVP Josh Allen ran it on 4th and 2, got a touchdown. That's why he's your MVP. What are those? Oh yeah, it's the winner. And hey, the Leprechaun got returned. BYU lost in Kansas City.
No,
they lied and cheated their way out of the
that was in Provo, bud.
Stadium. It's not been a good November for you. Trump won in a landslide. Your beloved BYU Cougars are not undefeated.
My beloved.
They should be 8-2. And Patrick Kermit, the Frog Mahomes.
Kermit.
Threw an interception. The MVP, Josh Allen, winning the game. I hope he has an umbrella because he's going to have to drive through all the women. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. So now let me get this right. I'm a BYU fan. I'm a Kansas City Chiefs fan.
Wow, man, that was... Whew, bro.
Stay hard.
Big Daddy Magic for the... At least he's not nude in this one because he sends me some... He said,
who is he, Mike Tyson?
Bro, no, God, don't tempt him, please. Dude, you joke. He sends me videos like this. Like, this is him with a bunch of cash. Like, what, bro?
What are we doing?
What are we doing?
What are we doing?
Hey, player. I got 1,000 on Donald Trump winning today.
That's what I live with. Hello?
Hello.
Why won't I play that video? Oh, I have a ton of them.
Hello.
Oh, I won't play. Is it too old to play it? He sends me videos all the time.
Anyway,
yeah. You guys, it is the single greatest part of my day.
Yeah.
That Big Daddy Magic sends me nudes. And wow. I'm just telling you.
Wow.
That's my guy. But he's going LeBron, La Cap, La Dad, La Donor is going up against Victor Wembanyama, the unicorn tonight. I don't even know if Victor is going to play. He's hurt. 43.5. Take it on Prize Picks. Download the Prize Picks app. Use the promo code Monty. Stop DMing me on Twitter. Like, I get a new phone. You want to know how miserable my life is? I get a new phone, and now I can't turn off my notifications on stuff. And it's like I get so many DMs on Twitter. It's wild. Because you guys know I don't read my comment section on notifications. It's just Jackwagon City.
Yeah.
Who's in my comments? Who's in my notifications? Oh, look at that. Loner phone.
Oh, boy.
Loner phone.
Here we go.
Oh, dear. Oh, my.
What is Loner phone railing about in the... God almighty, you guys. That was 7 days ago, Loner phone. Anyway, it's death and destruction.
Yeah.
Again, he sends me another one 11 hours ago. I go back to the top here. Oh, thank you, Brett. Brett on Twitter says, you have my son wanting to do a podcast now. Thanks for nothing. Anything I can do to help.
Anything we can do, bro. Thank you.
Loner Phone says, look up stats of Pitt Clemson, sir. Pitt outperformed Clemson in every metric but the final score. Who cares? Pitt's a... Oh, God. Are you a Pitt fan? How are you? There's nobody's a Pitt fan.
Yeah, come on.
Pitt's an average-ass team. It is. It's fine. Rocky Quintero's mom. Rocky Quintero's mom. This is the first DM in my stack. Rocky Quintero's mom. Monty, I used to like your show, but you've turned into an SEC honk.
Oh.
This bullshit about Georgia being the best team in the Big 12 is ridiculous. Who's paying you? So because I think that...
Are you serious right now, bro?
Because I think that Georgia would be the best team in the Big 12. Somebody's paying me.
I'll go Big Red Machine.
Okay. Thank you for validating why I do not get into the DMs.
What's it like to be an SEC show? Confirmed now.
And what's it like to be Rocky Quintero's mom? Do you guys see what I deal with on a daily basis in my... That's
Rocky Quintero's mom.
This is why I don't get into Twitter. It's why I just
started having second thoughts.
My God.